Welcome back to AM Live. With me, we have Charles, we know Brian Weke, Dr. Martin Olo, as well as Professor Gitile Naituli. And we get into, was it a lie? And that is the issue of cost of living. Now, what forms the basis of this discussion, right? We were told that President William Ruto, Raila Odinga met in Mombasa, a meeting, should I say moderated, facilitated, but at which former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo was present. And so the two camps came up, or rather, according to the Kenya Kwanza system, have embarked on identifying all the issues that are on the table. A list of 5 issues, according to, as per Kenya Kwanza statement released over the weekend, that was not signed by Opiyo Wandayi, signed by Kimani Ichung'wah. Among those 5 issues, the thing that was of concern for a lot of Kenyans, speaking for myself, was that cost of living was not among them. But there was a portion of it, and I'll pull up that statement, that talked about the finance bill issue. It's an action now, of course, is in court. And so it would be sub judice to have it on the table. Raila Odinga yesterday spoke. As we saw the statement read by Munya. We've seen the pictures on the dailies. And they said, that statement does not reflect our stand. But first, what do you make of the events? You know, how what has transpired? Did you see it coming? Charles, we were told that Samia had attempted. Raila told us she was snapped by the president when she came somewhere in Mount Kenya, the Safari Club or something. But now, turns out Olusegun was able to bring the two together.
I don't know. They will tell us further what they discussed. But I don't know whether people had to die. We had to destroy things. We had to loot supermarkets for us to talk. And we have systems of talking. But I think the leader of opposition has his way of doing his things. It's maybe that is creating fear and then pushing somebody to your agenda. But we'll be yet to see where it ends. I'm just hoping, as somebody from the lakeside, that it is not a gimmick to be close to the president, then close doors for us Luos, put us in a corner and use us for purpose of bargain, so that if you want anything from government, you have to pass through Raila Odinga, and then also sustain ODM in Luo Nyanza. You know, Luo Nyanza, we are very proud of saying we fought for multi-party democracy. But we don't practice it. We only have single party. And if you try moving to another one, you are dealt with thoroughly. So it could also be a good way for him to sustain his party. Because if he's close to the president, he will be able to convince the president and tell him, I'll deliver the Luos to you. And they'll only come through my party. And therefore, the trading continues. You have to sing to an individual's tune. You have to be taxed. So if it is heading to that direction, it will be very unfortunate. But if there is a genuine discussion on cost of living, because what I've seen before is situations where somebody comes to your home, steals your single cow, the one you are milking, goes away with it, keeps it in home, and then comes to your family and says, your father is such a bad man. Nyinyi na mama yenu kuja kwangu, mkunywe maziwa. Na ni ile ng'ombe yenu mtu aliiba akaenda naye. So tunangoja, let's wait and see where the talks are going to head to.
All right. Yeah. Brian, before I ask you to weigh in, looks like things are easing. I came across these pictures posted by Jalas. I saw Eugene Wamalwa first. I said, Allah. Then I saw, Raila Odinga, Mwangi wa area. I said, okay. So it seems there is a truce or a ceasefire. An image there posted by Jalango over the weekend. Him and Baba laughing, you know, holding, okay, not really holding hands, but, you know, there is contact. So it appears politics has shifted. But Brian, this was just on a light note. Did you see things ending up this way?
I think, first, we have been very clear. And we have been saying that it is a high time that people need to sit down and discuss. It is a high time for this country to have serious dialogue on the issues that are affecting common Kenyans. When I listen to Charles, belittling this discussion that it is about Raila bargaining and the laws being used, you know, then we are not serious Kenyans. I think it is a high time that we discuss issues that are bedeviling this country. You know, Olive, I've just come back from Tanzania. I bought fuel at 150, neighboring country. And I'm actually shocked that I'm even feeling sorry for the petrol stations that are on our side that are selling fuel at 200 shillings, but when you cross the other side, you purchase fuel at 150. I have bought rice at 130 in Tanzania. I've just bought unga at around 90 something shillings per kg. So we definitely have to discuss the cost of living in this country. And we want to tell the likes of Akina Kimani Ichung'wah, and you can see clearly those are people who are trying to scuttle the process. If you're trying to tell us that we want to infuse CDF in the constitution, that is a point of discussion. Really, you're taking Kenyans for a ride. We have to discuss these issues of taxes. And let no one lie to you that it is sub judice. It is not. These are issues that are affecting us. It is affecting the cost of living. It is affecting, for instance, the cost of fuel. That is a point of discussion that we have to discuss in this country. Why are we paying fuel at 200, yet our neighboring country is selling fuel at 150? That we have to discuss. And it is a good thing that there is an olive branch that has been really shared. And let's have that discussion. And let's have serious discussions. The issues of the so-called hustlers that were promised bottom-up, that particular agenda has to be on the table. And it has to be serious, meaningful discussion, not PR that you're seeing happening currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martin, I don't know what you make of what Brian is saying, because he reads sinister motives where the Kimani Ichung'wah statement is concerned, right? Okay, so Raila Odinga posted this. Yesterday, Kenya Kwanza released a one-sided statement signed by Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah that they claimed to incorporate our views. We disowned the statement by Honorable Ichung'wah. Azimio had nothing to do with it. Its contents were those of Kenya Kwanza, their wish list. Deliberate attempt to paint the Azimio camp in bad light?
Okay,
I think that I'm trying to see the paper that says we are living a lie. It was People Daily Ruchwa.
We are living along? We're living along?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You know, when I listen to both Brian and Charles here, they confirmed to me that we are living a lie. Because there's no need for us to talk. What are the talks about? My own position, and Professor Ian knows, is that there's no room for dialogue in the manner that we are contemplating it. If the cost of living is a problem, and if taxes are high, you solve it with a policy paper or a taxation program in Parliament. Now you either bring an alternative bill, an alternative taxation offer, or not. Now, what we are seeing is shenanigans, and it will go playing out the way you see Kimani Ichung'wah doing it, UDA, Azimio telling you this. At the end of the day, these talks are meant to achieve nothing because they are based on nothing. If you want to sort out cost of living, you do not go and sit on a table to talk. You either decide something about the 3.6 trillion budget and you reorganize it in a way that Parliament can approve it in a manner that's affordable. Now, Brian here is talking about fuel. You know that half of the cost of fuel in this country are taxes. So if Tanzania is not imposing those taxes, they are likely to be cheaper. You know, half of the cost of electricity in this country is taxes.
Correct.
In fact, the beautiful thing is this. When the current people were in opposition, Kindiki, Murkomen, and the president himself, they told us it is not fair for taxes to be, for fuel to be high. They are going to bring it down. When the Nusmukata was on and the issue of cost of living was there, they explained it. Even Baba explained it. I said, oh, the rains have not come. When the rains come, food will come down. So we are living a lie. Kenyans are being cheated. That's why we were told here, oh, we are for hustlers. Hustlers are being taxed, even chamas are being taxed, even Mama Mboga is being taxed. Now, you would say taxation is not a bad thing for chamas and Mama Mboga, but the question then is, what services are you going to give them as a result of the tax that you are going to impose, that they are going to pay? In other words, what is the return on the taxes we pay? Nobody's saying don't pay taxes. We should pay taxes. But what are these taxes being put on? To see this budget go for 3.6 trillion, away from 3.2 trillion, I ask the question, so what is this different thing that Kenya Kwanza is going to do that Jubilee didn't do?
They have placed restrictions on foreign travel.
Which is for what? For what gain? I mean, what is it giving us? When this government took over, they said they were going to cut budgets, and they even made an effort to reduce by, I don't know, was it 300 billion or 300 million? There were signs. After that, we went back to business as usual. Workshops are happening. We are all running all over the place. Sundays, we are having the entire government going to church at our cost, and so on. So we basically are joking, and we are cheating Kenyans. The beautiful thing is that Kenyans love to be lied to, and therefore they are not yet annoyed enough.
All right. Prof, before I ask you to weigh in, Robert Alai tweeted this in response to the Kimani Ichung'wah statement. If cost of living isn't part of the negotiations, me and Babu Owino will demand that we have a parallel initiative which is away from this kalongolongo. Our people shouldn't have died for these jokes. We must be serious. There is no seriousness here. Do you share his sentiments?
I think so. I think, you know, when I look at Raila Odinga, he appears to be a sincere person, but with a very low level of strategy or even tactics. He needs somebody who can see a little further with him. He should never have attended that meeting in Mombasa, even before he embarrassed the people who are dead and injured. Because he had already built a groundswell of resentment, of disaffection on the government. Because, I mean, you saw in the screens, our policemen, you were beating people on the ground like a snake. You saw all those things. So when you have built to that level, you don't deflate it by looking desperate. Okay? Because that's what it appears. And that's why Kenya Kwanza issued that kind of requirement that let's create offices. You know, because now they made the strike look like it was about offices of the opposition, legalizing Mundavandi's office, and tracing CNDF, which is basically money for MPs, is really not money for citizens. But having said that, let me just get reasonable here and tell you this. I think discussions, national dialogue on what is happening need to take place. Why do I say that? Because I think the Kenya Kwanza government is defining the problem wrongly. And if you define the problem wrongly, you are very unlikely to get an answer. Now, is it the Kenya Kwanza alone defining the problem wrongly? I think both of them. We think that the cost of living is actually our problem. But the cost of living is a symptom of a bigger problem. And the problem is, you can define it in two words. It is in government wastefulness and corruption. And this is why a national dialogue is possible, because maybe they can propose laws to arrest the two. You see, the president is moving to reduce foreign trade because at the end, given in the 60% of his ministers are all over the place, attracting pandium. Maybe sometime we should give them this pandium so that we can save on air tickets and international hotel accommodations, if that is what they are looking for. In the country, within the country here, what we have is a government governance by helicopters. His ministers, his principal secretaries, people can go to Naivasha or Gambu, they have to go in an helicopter and the vehicle follows to go and get them. Or when you go to Mombasa, remember there is government offices in Mombasa. So you can fly to Mombasa and have the relevant ministry pick you and do your job and come back. The vehicle must drive on the ground to Mombasa, pick you in the airport after you have arrived. The same thing for Naivasha, Kisumu, and so on. So we need to figure out how do we make the Kenyan government, and this is not necessarily just Ruto government, it's all the Kenyan government. How do they make them treat Kenyan money with respect? Treat these hustlers with respect. Treat their money the way you earned with personal money. That discussion is necessary. The discussion on how to deal with the corruption, which is not the language of the KK right now, is also crucial because this is how we have undermined. You see, you hear the president, I listened to him the other day, he said, you don't grow, your cost of living go down through the farm. Okay?
Yes.
Another one, when we grow enough maize, you see,
he was asking that
is forgetting this.
yesterday.
Very superficial.
Yes,
You know,
when you look, unga comes from the so
when you look at that thinking, then you realize unga will never come down.
Never.
Because it's not about what is coming. This, even if the farm produces, you must still move it to the market.
Yes.
At the cost. You must process it. The packaging, the labor cost. You see, you have to,
You
it's a
must bring down the
composite.
cost of business.
You must bring the other cost of business. So the one can go down, but the others are going and makes no difference. So that's why a national conversation is relevant, because the government can greatly benefit from allowing intermarriage of ideas in it. Now, the opposition, when they look panicky and they look too eager to have a discussion, then the government does not respect them and they will not respect them. So these talks can only succeed if there is a mutual respect. That's how talks succeed anywhere you go for peace, for, you know, you intervene in order to create peace. First, there has to be mutual respect between the parties. I don't think KK has a reason to respect.
And they don't have intentions whatsoever, even if I was advising them. They should not have an intention to have a dialogue.
You know, it was a situation of, you know that song during sports day, steam, panda, steam, panda, panda. So we reached a certain level, you know, and so we had the international community speaking up. Even media was like, let's save our country, church, you know. Then we are told that this will be an extra parliamentary committee. 4 members from outside parliament, 2 from each side. The leaders of majority and minority from the National Assembly, 4 additional members of parliament, 2 from each side. And then we are left like, Allah, is this really extra parliamentary? Or, you know, you are talking about a national dialogue. Or is this just bipartisan by another name?
You see what Asimi would have done to make this thing recent. Just
okay,
1 minute.
I'll come to you. But let Charles come in at this point.
Let me say something. I totally agree with Dr. here, Olo, for saying that we are living a lie. Because this is our country, and we have to be very patriotic, without necessarily going to our personal interests, individual interests first. I heard Weke talking about Tanzania. And you know, it's very good to look at the history of a country. Tanzania was very lucky at one point to have Magufuli, and he came up with very stringent measures. I don't think Tanzania borrowed the same way Kenya borrowed in the previous government, including Eurobond and so on. And we have borrowed heavily. I've always said, fine, we don't want to accuse those who borrowed because there's some little work they did. But what is the reality? The reality is we borrowed. And the reality is we must pay those loans. Otherwise, if we don't pay those loans, then we'll become insolvent. And at the end of the day, it may be worse. So when Professor Gitile talks about national dialogue and talks about issues on how we can resolve matters, then it needs to be factual. It needs not to be politically instigated to undermine a sitting government.
What is not
because
factual?
We should, no, what is not factual is we are talking about cost of living, as if it started with President Ruto. Are you getting me? What we must do, yes, we must admit the cost of living is high. We must admit the taxes are high, but we must come down and ask ourselves, why is the cost of living high? And how do we solve these problems? I've even seen you laugh and say that planting maize will not reduce the cost of unga.
I am not the one who has said it.
Yeah, but
Prof said it.
But even as we speak today, where I come from, we are harvesting. We were buying 2 kilograms of maize at 250, 300 shillings. As we speak today, in my home, we are now buying 2 kilos of maize at 80 shillings.
For how long?
No. I'm giving, and excuse me, I'm talking about what is happening.
That's how we exploit our farmers also.
Yes. So the only mistake is that farmers, you find them now again selling this maize instead of storing. They are selling this maize to middlemen who are going to store and wait when the prices have gone high and then come and sell. So my take is simple. The history of my big brother Raila Odinga is he has been in a handshake in one way or another with all the past presidents. He was with Moi, he was with Kibaki, he was with before the handshake with Uhuru. He was very vocal and telling Kenyans, oh, we are over borrowing, oh, we are good things as an opposition leader. The moment they got into handshake, he kept quiet, he got into it, the borrowing ceiling went off, and we continued borrowing. So I don't know whether this one is talking about is an avenue to get into government, because Professor said that Raila should never have attended the meeting. But he's forgetting that even the agitation, even the demonstration, was to push the president to sit down with him. Now, we may talk here, but the objective is unigawie kidogo. And from where I come from,
Wrong objective.
yes, it is wrong, but I'm telling you, from history, what he has always done, ni kugawiwa. So what I'm saying is, when we talk about living a lie, I agree. We are living a lie as a nation. If we are to talk and we are to say there's high cost of living, we should be looking at solutions, not people looking at getting positions in government. That's my take.
Okay.
I think he is being very unfair to Raila Odinga. Let me say this very quickly, because we have to look at where Raila Odinga did the handshake. 2007, it was in deserved handshake, because remember how that election went, okay? And in any case, it produced the best government for Kenya. The government that has ever served Kenya properly, it was the Nusu Mukate government. No any other government has served Kenya like that one. That is one. Two, shaking the hand with Uhuru Kenyatta, which personally I have opposed, and I oppose it up to today because it undermined democracy. But again, remember how the election was. It was the court declared it's illegal and so on. I've never understood why he did that. And to be honest, that handshake cost him this election. There would have been no William Ruto if Raila Odinga did not join Uhuru Kenyatta in 2018. Because when you look at the Jubilee administration, it failed from day one. It's just like the way this one is in beginning.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it's being too unfair to Raila for, I don't understand the reason.
All right, Brian, come in at this.
He has just confirmed. He has confirmed only that let Raila keep to opposition. Let him do what he knows how to do best.
Yeah.
That's how we actually want him to be the alternative.
Exactly.
Not try to go and sit with these people.
Okay.
It doesn't
Brian, the same question I posed to Charles, which is when you look at the constitution of this extra parliamentary committee of 10, is it, in your view, another bipartisan committee by another name of committee of 10?
Now, first, I don't know whether Kenyans will live a lie or we buy lies, or whether the leaders who are in government lie or lie
All
to
those
us.
things.
Because somebody once told me, Charles, that this president of ours is a very brilliant liar, so to speak. He lied to Kenyans that he's not in government, yet he's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. So even when we're talking about who took the loans and where the loans went, our president was the deputy. But I don't want to get into that particular discussion. You hear Charles telling us that maize now is being sold at 90. No problem.
Unajua kwenu wa mlimi,
No.
unafanya samaki.
That's farming. Fish farming.
We have no problem with that.
Sisi tunalima.
And the problem we have is that now we have a bumper harvest. What happens? The price of maize goes down. only for barely 1 month. After that, whatever we have produced, we consume, we sell it to brokers. Then after 1 month, we go back to the same problem. That is why that narrative, that planting maize is what brings the cost of living down, is a blatant lie. It is a blatant lie. The problem we have is the cost of production in this country. The cost of fertilizer. How do you move fertilizer from this place to that place? The cost of removing the maize from the shamba to all that, what is transport, the processes, and the price of fuel has to come down in this country, because price of fuel determines virtually everything. Now, if we can sit down on national TV and belittle this discussion that it's about Raila Odinga, whether he wants to get into government, where I sit, I don't know what you have with Raila Odinga, where I sit, what I want is to ensure that the cost of living in this country is brought down. I want to see that democracy in this country counts. I want to ensure that Dr. Olo's son or daughter, or my son or daughter, or myself, if I'm able to inspire Kenyans, then one man, one vote rule must apply. This issue of really ensuring that there is no democracy in this country, where there is a legitimate elections year after year, those discussions, we have to have those discussions. And we have to ensure that we entrench democracy in our country. That is what I want to see. The story of Raila Odinga, I don't know who, we are not interested in personalities. We want to ensure that we have a country that responds to all Kenyans.
Olive,
Dr. Martin,
I want to help these guys. If you really want all that, give us your alternative policy positions in the opposition. Do not try to go into government. Here is why what happened last time there was handshake. The IBC Act was amended. The commissioners that we got between Uhuru and Raila are those ones that you saw in Serena.
Exactly.
Very lackluster fellows who are clueless
Totally.
about what was going on in the country, leave alone in the electoral process. That was a discussion, that the result of that handshake. Now again, IBC is on the agenda. I can tell you without any fear of doubt that Ruto will outsmart Raila when it comes to that agenda. And if that happens again, they'll get a commissioners of IBC that will still be lopsided. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying that our solutions are not going to sit on a table at you're discussing at national dialogue, at now we're having agenda. And I like what Kenya Kwanza are doing. They're trivializing the agenda and saying, oh, we are putting Prime Cabinet Secretary, we are putting CDM. That's trivializing it. Exactly. Now, if I was to advise you guys for free, forget about talks. Solidify opposition. Exactly. Solidify your rank and file. Get on the heat. This government will talk to you if it will want to talk. If not, it will find itself out of government. So, this business of saying tuende tuongee, there is no room. When I look at this constitution, this one, there is no room for such things like, oh, at extra parliamentary, at home. Then what? What happens when you have discussed and you have come up with ideas? What happens to them? You start a process that was that failed, like the BBI process. You try to bring up some, some mixed up things, and you're saying, oh, this is about constitution, this is about that. Then you go through a process that does not go anywhere. The best way is, let's just use this constitution. There is minority and there's majority. When majority are in power, let minority play their role. If there is any need for there to be a conversation and a convergence, bipartisanship can happen, but inside parliament, so that you can get a bill, or you can get amendments, or you can get a proposal that it could even come from opposition, that even the government could support, because we are all agreed on whether that is going to contribute to the differences we are looking for. But when all is said and done, the government is in the hands of Kenya Kwanza. The policies and the taxation tool as they have is in their hands. They can use it in the best way they know how. They can be misled, they can mislead themselves, they can actually lead themselves well, they can have the best advice, but the opposition ought to be checking them from inside parliament and giving us alternative views. Not sitting on a table, not going to some other issues. But having said that, I think what is very critical is this. we have seen a deliberate attempt by this Kenya Kwanza government to actually muzzle and ignore this constitution and to try and demand things that are not in this constitution. The right to demonstrate, the right to picket, the right to assemble, the right to talk against government. That's a right that your government does not give to an individual.
I have seen the policeman in Charles.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Because you still...
But we need to take a break, but when we come back, do we say if this was... Kama ingekuwa mrembo tungesema basi at this point, hii imeenda. On the other side of this break.
When there's need to play the hard ball, I make the tough call. Draw hard lessons from the firm questions. I do it with all due respect. I'm James Smart, and this is NTV.
Safaricom Investment Cooperative brings you affordable yet luxurious residential apartments in Ruaka. Prices ranging from 3.2 million for studio apartment to a favorable 6.5 million for a 2-bedroom, the Miran residence is the perfect investment suited for you.
Kenya Utalii College is a premier UNWTO accredited hospitality and tourism training institution and a gateway to international careers. Apply now for competency-based diploma or certificate courses or short tailor-made courses.
Centum Real Estate offers you an opportunity to own a home at the Two Rivers Development, Mzizi Court Residence. Talk to us today on 0703 262626 or text 2 Rivers to 22365.
Welcome back to AM Live. The heated debate has gone on even during the break. But Professor Gitilen, actually it was your turn to chime in. Yes. Oh,
was my chance?
No, his and then I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, no, you know, there's something happening to us here. There are so many lies we are living because even this in debt, my friend he talked about there, the debt itself is a lie. When you look at the statistics from the central bank, the government, the Jubilee administration cannot explain 4.1 trillion. They have 2.9 trillion in the borrowed without authority of parliament. Because you can see what is the parliament authorized, what it has not. When you look at what they borrowed and what the parliament authorized for payment, you realize that we don't even have a right to pay, it's already paid. So nobody can understand this because they borrowed 8.3 during the Jubilee administration and they paid 6.1. You see, our debt rises as if we don't pay every year. But if you look at the Budget Appropriation Act every year, they have budgeted for payment. So we need a conversation to find out what happened to this debt, who is actually taking this money. So anyone who says we don't need a national conversation, I'm not so sure if they are thinking properly. We also need one, because you see what happened immediately after the election. The Asibio came to parliament with the majority of parliamentarians as a team, okay? Immediately, because the law is not being applied, William Ruto was able to move those people, whatever method he used. He moved them and he made these people a minority. We need to strengthen the Political Parties Act so that the moment you move to another, even though right now Constitution illusory says that when you propose support, you are deemed to have defected, but then it makes the speaker the only person who can declare your seat vacant. We need to be able to get the court to also be able to declare the seat vacant when the speaker does not act. We also need to have a conversation so that we can give the court the option of removing our president who has obviously violated the law, but the parliament is in his pocket. So there is areas which we really need a national conversation.
Doctor, I know shots were fired.
Yes.
But first, please, Charles Owino Atakasika.
I must respond to this one.
Which one?
He says that I'm not thinking properly.
Very quickly.
That I'm not thinking properly. I am. He said people who don't want national dialogue, but I'm not thinking properly. So you see, I must respond to it. I am thinking properly. And I want to give you an example. Omtata doesn't like finance bill. What does he do? He goes to court to make an argument. Otherwise, he could have said, let's have a national conversation. You don't like what's happening today, you have a and indeed even the Auditor General has said, that we don't know what our debt is. Let us have a public interest litigation finding its way to the High Court, all the way to the Supreme Court, for us to determine for once and for all, what is our public debt, what should Kenyans be paying. That is something that the court can actually address. Okay. So I'm thinking properly. National dialogue will not do it.
All right. Charles.
Fine, I agree to a large extent because I've always said this is our country and we need to be patriotic. And we need to get genuine solutions to the problems that we have. To some extent, I agree with Professor Gitile, especially when it comes to national debts. Situations where maybe a government can take 2.9 trillion without authority of parliament. But these things also happen when we have a situation where opposition decides to go to bed with government. There is need to have an opposition. The president has just 2 eyes and 1 brain. And many a times, people who are close to him can decide kumpapaza and he may not see what's happening. So there is need to have a genuine and strong opposition, as he puts it. Not opposition to go to bed with government at any point. The opposition must remain, the opposition must be strong. So I don't agree with moves which is going to push us towards opposition going to bed with government and sharing. If Raila Odinga is not geared towards a handshake or going to bed with government, I don't have a problem as a person. I would only have a problem if he's geared towards going to bed with government and then going to wash everything under the table, and therefore the president will not work appropriately. We need the president to be put on check. We need him to work properly. He's just an individual. He would also want to succeed. But what we are seeing is kind of sabotage, trying to do things to weaken the sitting government in order to say high cost of living, and it continues, and it continues, and it continues. If you go back to our history a few years ago, in 2012, 2013, Raila Odinga was the prime minister and Kibaki was the president. And you remember towards the run to, we had the Constitution 2010, a very big achievement for us, which gave us devolution. And then after that, we had Hassan Esak brought in with the blessing of everyone. The opposition still lost in 2013. Then after that, you saw the demonstrations to IBC offices. Every day by leader of opposition. Who was still Raila? I'm not obsessed. Who was still Raila? He pushed, and Asaki-san left, and we got Chebukati. We still lost that election. Then now the handshake. They pushed, they got 4 commissioners. The ones he's saying were clueless. They brought...
And you agree with me?
4 commissioners.
You agree?
Yes, because the election process, those people, I'm sure they didn't even have time to understand the election process.
Never did.
They may never have understood that this election is won at the polling station. Even if you want to steal, you steal at the polling station. You cannot, if you want to win an election, you win it at the polling station. All these other side shows, ya nini na nini, does not work. So what is there is, and I've also seen one of the demands, apart from IBC, is issues of MPs. There are some MPs from Luo Nyanza who are allegedly supporting Kenya Kwanza. But if you look at it, when the president goes to Nyanza, the governors are asked not to meet the president. When the president goes to Coast, like the other day, the ODM governors, the governor for Kilifi, the governor for Mombasa, they were with the president. And the opposition leader has not raised a finger, meaning that the only region that he does not want anybody, the jilted lover, is Nyanza. If you are from Nyanza and you attempt to talk to government, then you are finished. Okay. Because this guy wants to hold us into a certain corner and use us for bargain. I am the coordinator for UDS here. Wait and see. I managed to get Ugenya out of ODM. I will manage to get Siaya out of ODM and take it to UDA. Weke can laugh. Weke, my age and Weke is not very different. Raila is a bit tired, and we can support him and take him to retirement. But Weke and I, we are together, you will see. Because my constituency is not ODM for the last 2 terms.
All right.
Yes.
No,
Weke, I'm proud of that.
All right. Brian, yes. There's something that was said during the break, Prof, if you don't mind me sharing. He said, Raila squanders crisis. You know, from a political strategy point of view. Do you agree with his assessment? You know, sometimes I wonder whether these guys are in Uganda or in Kenya. Just hold on.
Kenya is this side of Uganda.
You know, when you listen to Charles talk, Charles is worried that...
I'm not.
No, allow me to talk.
I'm not. My MP is not ODM.
He hasn't even finished his sentence.
I'm not worried.
I've not even said anything.
I don't even fear.
I think next time we will not put the 2 of them together.
You hear Charles every single time you give him a chance, he is worried that Raila is coming into government. You know what they've been doing? The likes of Akina Charles, they have a team. And their biggest role in government is to discuss Raila. That, you know, we will bring for you Luos, discussing Raila in negative terms. Now, when they see talks are happening, they're actually worried.
No.
Because in very simple language, kitumbua kimeingia mchanga. Now they're worried about that. Now, Prof, I want to remind you, and Martin, I hear Martin says, we do not need any national discussion. You know, sometimes we forget very quickly. The reason why we have this 2010 constitution that Martin, as a lawyer, keeps on referring to, this is a good constitution. This constitution is a charter. This constitution is as a result of a national conversation. This constitution, if we didn't have 2007, we wouldn't have this constitution. And let me tell you, when we realized that the problem in this country was that one man takes it all, and it was about resources and control of resources, we created 47 counties and devolved over 300 billion. That was as a matter of national discussion. If you look at the institutions we created in this constitution, the Chapter 15 commissions was as a result of national conversation. And when I hear people belittling the street demos, people belittling what Raila is doing for this country, then sometimes I'm actually shocked. Prof, Raila has his own mistakes, but without him, we wouldn't have this discussion.
I didn't belittle that.
So even now, we are going to have discussions that will bear fruit and create even better institutions. So please, do not belittle discussions, Martin, saying that we do not need a national conversation. We do need a national conversation.
He says this is a very important document and he's throwing it. Don't throw this document. However angry you may be. I think he has confirmed the fact that we do not need conversations all the time. We already have a guiding charter here that should tell us, if we are in this, what do you do? You see, right now we are discussing very basic things. Charles here talks about Luo MPs not being allowed to associate. The Constitution allows anybody and everybody to associate. So you cannot stop an ODM MP from associating or even from working with the government. Neither can you stop a UDA MP from working with the opposition and so on. So the Constitution allows. The Constitution also allows Kenyans, any Kenyan of whatever kind, to picket. You know, you can wake up even without any reason to say, I don't like this government. You don't have to assign serious reasons. You must be able to, and if you have numbers, you know, like now, in France, They have been rioting, but because it's a summer time, they have taken holidays. And they are saying that as soon as they are through the holidays, they are coming back to riot. That is their right, to riot, to express themselves, to demonstrate. So basically what we are saying, and we are telling Brian here, because I know that he sits sometimes where these people are, please tell them to leave this thing of national dialogue alone. Let them concentrate on what options and solutions ought to be available. Let them think of how they can make and form government, and let them leave this government to either fry itself, cook itself, or succeed itself. Because otherwise, trying to talk to it and trying to go and sit with it is going to cost you the way sitting with Uhuru cost you.
All right. So, Prof, I know you're quite eager to jump in at that point, but unfortunately, I will do you a disservice. I will have to end the conversation here because I'm told the ICT Cabinet Secretary is delivering a statement at the moment. I believe it's a performance review statement, so we will cross over there. Listen in to Eliud Owalo.
To facilitate virtual uptake of consumption of government services by Kenyans. Again, we are also expected to initiate the process of the pursuit